It's a few minutes after 7. Recording has started, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. No great agenda. Said we did just have a meeting in early March, which was our delayed February meeting. So probably not as much has happened in the last 3 weeks, but we do have a few items I had noted. And so we'll just go ahead and jump into it. And if anyone else joins, we'll fold them right in. First of all, before I pull up any news items, does anyone have any announcements or updates? I know, Rick, you got the DEAM event coming up, April 10th at Marshall?
Yep. We hope
you got as many folks as you need, or any?
I have no idea. Nobody except Larry's the only person that told me he's coming. Oh yeah, we have
Rick. I replied, I think, email wise.
All of your emails forever and ever go into my spam box. Every time I say this is not spam, the next time, so if I don't think to look in the spam box, I never get an email from you.
Okay, I'll resend it, while we're on the call.
But I think that's my. If you always send it as a group text, you almost never send it to me individually. I think mine somehow identifies that as a spam.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not spamming anybody.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't mean. But anyway, I'll send it again so you can go find it.
Yeah. There is a hand.
Marty. Can you hear us, Marty? We can't hear you.
Greetings from California.
Greetings and salutations. All right, we were just talking about the Earth Day event at Marshall. Sounds like we've got a couple folks lined up and hopefully some more to show up for that. As far as other just news items, a couple things that I had noted. If we don't have any other announcements, I thought I would share. There it is. All right. So one of the things that has happened since our last discussion is Rivian owners now have Tesla supercharger access. Doesn't look like they've started sending out the DC adapters quite yet, but that is ready and working in Rivian vehicles. I even saw that they had done a little more integration than Ford had done, where you can see live the charging rate and the cost right in the Rivian display when it's connected to a supercharger. I thought that was kind of neat. I don't see James on here, but I know he was excited about getting supercharger access. And Rivian also rolled out announcements for a couple more EVs. We got the R2 and the R3, so smaller SUV type vehicles. The R2 is just a scaled down R1 SUV, and then we've got this R3, which is like a SUV hatchback wagon-y kind of thing. Which actually the R3 is my favorite of the two. It's kind of retro styled. But anybody watch the live reveal for the Rivians? I think it was out in California, actually, Marty. Somewhere out there in California.
I just got into California late last night. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you wouldn't have been there for that.
Plus, we're down in the desert.
Okay.
The fact is, we spent several hours out in the middle of really nowhere in the Mojave Desert talking to some people that like to exaggerate things. That's I think, typical for the desert people. So I can report that after stopping at about 25 superchargers between West Virginia and here, including West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, that none of the chargers were busy. I mean, we're full. So a couple of them towards here in California were getting a little busy. One in Arizona was. And I didn't see any non-Teslas charging. Although I did see a Ford Mach-E look like they wanted to charge, but they drove right past the only easy to plug into station, and it got filled up by somebody right behind them. And they would have had to have taken 3 or 4 stalls, and there weren't 3 or 4 stalls. So I don't think they were going to charge at that location. That was in Kingman, Arizona yesterday. Other than that, I didn't see anybody. I did see truckloads of Rivians headed west and a truckload of Cybertrucks headed west on I-10 in Texas. So that's my travel report.
To keep that California EV market supplied.
Yes.
On the charging front, I noticed this because we use IHG hotels, but IHG has followed Hilton and the other brand, I think it was Best Western, in cutting these deals to roll out the EV chargers at their hotels. So we might be seeing more and more EV chargers at hotels around the country. Always a good thing.
Yeah, that hasn't worked out too well on this trip for us.
Oh, okay. Well, so I know you said that you've been to a bunch of superchargers, but yeah, how has the hotel charging experience been?
I think we got to 2 that worked, and the one last night was on a lot next to the hotel, and the guy said it was managed by the city, and it was Electrify America and some old Clipper Creeks, and I couldn't get the Clipper Creeks to work. So, but the supercharger was a mile away, so who cares? So, it would have been nice not to have to drive over there, but turned out it was right next to where we had dinner anyway, so it worked out okay.
Well, I can report I drove down to Charleston on Sunday and drove back on yesterday. And the supercharger behind the Holiday Inn Express at the Civic Center in Charleston was working great. No problems.
And it wasn't full, hopefully, Robert.
No, actually, it was pretty empty. There was only one other car when I got there last night. Well, Sunday night, there was only one other car there.
On our trip to Wisconsin, we went to Dayton and then stayed there at my sister's and then finished the drive yesterday on Monday. Nothing was very busy. Matter of fact, I think we had the first time we'd ever stopped at Spiceland, Indiana, which is between Dayton and Indianapolis. It's a truck stop, but it's managed apparently by an Indian family, and they have an Indian restaurant. We didn't eat there. We barely had enough time to go to the restroom and then grab our sandwiches out of the back and start eating them and make a call. And the car was done before, and we unplugged and finished the call and then on the road. So, but I noted that one as, hey, I'm going to check the reviews on the Indian restaurant, and if it's obviously a non-chain, and if it's got good reviews, we'll stop sometime and plan to eat there, lunch or dinner. So,
I think the busiest supercharger I saw going down was Morgantown. The newer V3 in Morgantown had 2 or 3 Teslas there when I showed up, and there was a pink Model Y there. I have never seen a pink Model Y.
Well, somebody painted it
or wrapped it or something.
Wrapped it probably.
It looked like it was like a Pepto-Bismol pink too, so it was kind of strange.
So we have someone named Unknown.
That's Amanda.
Amanda. Oh, hi, Amanda.
And what's the cat's name?
This is Jack.
Well, hello, Jack, the cat.
I call him Jackass most of the time. He's a jackass.
One thing about superchargers, Sue and I have been noticing more and more non-Tesla DC fast chargers being right next to them in parking lots. We've seen them, one at Cincinnati Myers, and then Fair Oaks between Indianapolis and Chicago now has a has 2 DC fast chargers with 4 plugs. And so
I guess is anytime you got high traffic, high density traffic areas, it's going to drive, the folks who do all that research to want to put their chargers in that location.
yeah. And Fair Oaks, if people aren't familiar with it, is essentially a touristy dairy farm destination, if you want to make it so, because there's a fairly nice hotel there. I forget what brand, but one of the, it's not Hilton, but competing with them. And but most time we're there is typically 25 to 30 minutes.
So we had one routing failure. We were unable to get to Carlsbad. I was unable to take the risk of going to Carlsbad Caverns because somebody had vandalized the non-Tesla chargers that are available in that area. And I just didn't want to get stuck on a campground for 8 hours charging up. So yeah.
I don't know how accurate it is, but I saw a report where people are vandalizing them for the copper inside of them.
Well, they won't get much, seeing how they're made out of aluminum. I mean, they have these fine little wires, maybe 22 gauge wires, and the whole thing might have, half a pound or, 3 or 4 ounces of copper wires, and the rest is aluminum bar. Aluminum.
You're talking about the cable, Marty?
Yeah, the cable was aluminum.
I didn't know that.
I took one apart. Yeah, so they're gonna be mildly disappointed. Plus, they're gonna get covered with corrosive antifreeze.
The liquid cooled cables.
The liquid cooled cables. That antifreeze is
Right.
not only is it poisonous, but it's corrosive. So you really don't want to get it on you.
Serves them right.
Yeah. So Tesla is very, very good at. They probably know within 30 seconds when one's been cut, and they get out there and replace them right away. We ran into two Tesla repairmen, one in Tennessee and one in Arkansas. That was pretty neat. I told them that there are my heroes, just like in the Monty Python skit.
Yeah, out west, we also ran into some repair people, but also some that were just upgrading, replacing the cables on a preventative maintenance basis. And Eric, our son, computer science technical guy, was just on one of those. He was with us, and he had just a great discussion with them. And at one place recently, in the last 3 months or so, I think it was back in January, we met one at, I think, Richmond, Indiana, and they were upgrading it for non-Teslas as far as the electronics inside to get them ready. It was one of the 250s. So they're great to talk to, and they'll keep working away, but they're willing to talk with people, particularly if you are enthusiastic about Teslas, because they are enthusiastic as well.
So, Amanda and Robert, can you tell us about the other NEVI meetings that were in Morgantown in March?
Well, actually, we talked about those on the last meeting, Marty.
Okay. Sorry.
But I think the consensus was that all of the meetings were basically very similar. Not, I think Amanda said at her meeting that wasn't as attended as well. And our meeting had a few folks, some of them were vendors in the audience, looking to bid on things. But similar experience, I think, in all of them.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but at ours, I asked Perry, I said, you don't have a flip chart or a whiteboard here to take our comments down. I suggest you have that at the next 2 meetings. And did one of you tell me that it didn't occur at Morgantown?
It didn't occur at Shepherdstown.
Yeah. So, I mean, he nodded and said, yeah, I'll do that, or I'll think about it or something. And it's like, if you're doing these meetings, Yeah, right over their head, right, Rick? So, oh well.
Talking about
Perry McCutcheon was pretty engaged as far as he was excited about the vehicles. He after the first hour presentation, he came out in the parking lot and we're checking out the Rivian that James was driving and some of the other vehicles. I got to give him a ride in the Model Y, which he had never been in a Model Y, so that was kind of neat. He was actually kind of interested in maybe purchasing a Model Y. So anyway, yeah, he was engaged and interested in all the vehicles.
My cousin bought a Model Y yesterday. He's my fourth cousin, actually. But he picked it up in Pittsburgh. He lives in Ripley. And he was kind of disappointed with the purchase process. He found scratches in the headlight, the head cover, which they kind of half buffered out and said they're not going to fix it. But the big thing was that there's something wrong with the GPS module and the navigation didn't work. And he drove it home like that. And I was going, I would have turned right around and taken it back home. So
yeah,
I told him to immediately get on the app and put in a maintenance request.
Yeah. Because they've sure got enough stock. They're pushing us to do referrals and all that. Did you get a referral for his purchase, Marty?
Oh, he'd already referred some from somebody else, but
Okay.
But he bought an inventory model and got a couple $1,000 off for it. And I just remember how it used to be back in the good old days, and this was kind of, please take the car and go away. They were polite to him and all that, but they really didn't want to spend a lot of time with him.
We were the last appointment of the day, and he spent probably an hour and a half with us delivering it. One thing I was going to mention, apparently they're now offering wall chargers in the rewards again. And that, from the buzz on the internet, is one of the most valuable rewards that you can get. So if you've got some rewards points that you can use. So, because even if you're not going to use it, you can sell it for pretty good money.
Looking at other companies again, did see this about Fisker. Looks like they're going through a pretty rough patch. I guess we'll have to see how this shakes out with them and whether they can pull through or not. But yeah, not looking good. And a lot of us remember the first time around with the Fisker Karma, and not the first time that they've Henrik Fisker has had these kinds of issues. On the positive side, I saw Lucid picked up another $1 billion investment from the Saudi PIF fund. So Lucid is getting some additional cash infusion. That'll be good for them. And speaking of Lucid, Rick, you said you've got, I saw your email, we've got a guest speaker for April.
Yeah, I've not met him in person. He's a member of this alumni association, and I saw he works for Lucid. So I text messaged on Facebook and said, would you like to join us? He said, I'd love to. So we gave him a choice of a couple, and he thought next time would be the best for him. So he's happy to answer. He's a mechanical engineer for Lucid Motors in California. And he sounds he's very personable in his written word. I don't know how he'll be in person. Imagine it'll be fun. Yeah, I don't know when I'll get there because I'm doing another event from 5 until 7.
Okay. Well, we'll if you will forward him the link, then we'll take care of him and let him present anything he wants to present, and then we can ask questions and just kind of keep it to 15, 20 minutes like usual.
Yeah, and that's the same link you sent for this meeting.
Yeah, same link. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, the link doesn't change every. I keep the same link. We were in Harrisonburg, Virginia yesterday eating supper,
And my wife looked out the window, and an EV bot went by with food to deliver to the JMU student at the dormitory. And they're all over the place, and they stop for red lights. And they've only had one problem. They had one that got run over by a train. They didn't know what the train tracks were. But other than that, they deliver the food from hot food, and they said it's hot or cold to get it the way you want it. So that's big at South Carolina University also, but really big at JMU.
So is this the campus dining hall sends out food?
No, from restaurants. It's just like DoorDash or whatever, but you get a box delivered to you. So you order it on with your app and go pick this up at McDonald's and bring it to me, and you paid for it already, or they wouldn't let the food go out the door, and then they just bring it right to you. Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I haven't experienced that yet.
What does it look like?
I didn't see it. She said it was a real small thing with a big, tall antenna, maybe, but with a flag or a pennant on the top, so pedestrians see it coming the other direction. And I think they stick to the sidewalks, but they're pre-programmed to know the route with incredible GPS, I would guess, not extensive cameras. I don't know. Don't know how it works. Maybe we'll have to get somebody. And I don't know, Robert, did you see my other email? I found out at a Drive Electric Columbus meeting that there is a company in Lancaster, Ohio that recycles EV batteries. And so I called them up, and they're actually located in Detroit, but they were going to pass it on to the higher ups that if they wanted to come and talk to us about battery recycling, that we might be able to give them a 15-minute further down the line. So I don't have the name right in front of me, but it's a Michigan company that has a plant in Lancaster, Ohio.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think they take more than just EV batteries. They take, any kind of NiCad or
right. Not just lithium and not just EVs, but they do take EV batteries.
Yeah.
Might be these are the ones I've seen. I've seen articles about these food delivery robots. So they look something like this. I don't know if that's one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kind of cute. I like to see them, how they work in Morgantown with all the hills.
Well,
They'd be on
EVs have
fire a lot.
lots of torque.
They'd set them on fire.
Yeah, they probably would.
Put them on a couch first, then light the couch.
We had an interesting experience at the Hotel Madison in Harrisonburg, part of it on the JMU campus. And they have an entire parking garage near them. It's not theirs, but they were given one floor, the bottom floor, to put a gate on the lock that opens with your room key. And they have 4 EV chargers in there. Well, and you can go overnight for a $5 payment. So if you're going to go overnight, that's cheaper than you can do it at home, I think. So anyway, I said to the man on checkout, I said, do you have any rooms here that are never used? He said, I guess so. Why? I said, you could print up a card to that room. Nobody would know what room that was, and then rent it out to a student. For $5, you can park and plug it, because all 4 of them have been empty for weeks, and they're getting no revenue back from them. And all they have to do is come to the desk, pay us $5. We'll give you this card. It's good for 24 hours, and you can go in and charge. And the guy said, I'm going to pass that up the line because that's $3,000 a year they could make potentially. But it was just the thought, instead of having empty level 2 chargers, keep them busy. As long as their own residents are paying $175 a night for a room, aren't being blocked.
Yeah.
Also, if you have any interest, and you probably don't, being Tesla people, but we just got back from a trip to Maryland, 800 miles, but I charged at 3 stations actually I've never been to before. One of them's called Hey Charge. Have you ever heard of that network? Hey Charge, Hey. And they were at the Muhlenberg Lutheran Church in Harrisonburg. And I spoke to the lady there extensively, and we worked it out. But anyway, when I was talking to Marshall about the EV chargers, I said, well, do you want people to pay for this? And they said, that'd be great. And I said, well, you have to have internet access, and that's $100 a month per station, not per plug, but per station. And I said, well, we're going to get $5 a month. Why would we pay $100? Well, Hey Charge says, well, how do you activate this thing? With your phone? Well, duh, doesn't every phone in the world have internet access? So what they do is they Bluetooth between the device and a QR code and your phone with an app, and then your phone sends the signal instead of so they don't pay $100 a month. They had 4 stations, 4 plugs, stations and 4 plugs that they don't pay anything at all for the connectivity. But that's called HeyCharge, H-E-Y. And I also charge at a Red E. Red E is based out of Michigan. In fact, they got 24 of the 41 NEVI contracts in Michigan were Red E. But I'll tell you briefly and I'll quit. I went to the NLX station at Midstate Chevrolet. Could not get it to work. Called the guy. He couldn't get it to work. Very disappointed. So we're going on. I know we can almost get to Blackwater, but I want to stop in Elkins if I can and get a little bit at the Red E. So I called them up, and because I said I want to make sure it's working, I'm not going to deviate 5 miles down there and back if I need that 10 to get to the lodge. Very nice man answered, or they didn't answer. The phone stopped ringing, and then I tried again. It rang a little bit. Then somebody picked it up. I couldn't hear anybody. Drove on a little bit further with my wife, and the phone rings. My phone rings. And the guy says, Rick? I said, yeah. He said, this is so-and-so from Red E. I noticed you called in, and we don't have a good connection. I called you back on my personal cell phone. What question do you have? Now, this is just unbelievable service. And he said, told me exactly the steps to go through. He said, I know it's working. Here's how you go through it. Here's the button to push on the screen, and then you use your credit card. And it worked. So we did use the Red E experience in Elkins Fordland. So I have a bad NLX experience and a good Red E and a good HeyCharge.
What date was that, Rick?
We just got back yesterday, so it was on the NLX would have been last Thursday. Now what happened is on the NLX, I knew I was going to be driving right past Flatwoods on the way back. So the guy that I was talking to said, can you stick around for another 10? I said, no, I can't. I've got to get going. So I called him the next day from Blackwater Falls in the parking lot. I talked to a very nice man and told him what happened. He said, are you going to be able to drive past there on the way back? I said, yeah. He said, boy, could you I will email you the instructions of exactly what to do and which button to push. And then your credit card reader's broken at Midstate. And that's the whole problem. So he said, well, we'll give you a chance to enter your card number. And if it verifies, then you can go ahead and charge. So that man was very, very nice for the NLX. But unfortunately, we were way behind in getting on the road yesterday, and we didn't have time to stop at Midstate. And plus,
I stopped at the one in Elkins on March 12th, and only one of those was working.
And that's of the DC chargers?
Yes.
Yeah, there are 4 AC and 2 DC. And I only went to the same one, and it worked each time, but I don't know if the other one. So you said 1 of 2 worked. 1 of 2, and I marked that on PlugShare, and they were like, "Well, we just charged it," and I'm like, "Well, whatever, yeah. It's not working now." So I marked that on PlugShare. So. I found a lot of these. It's not the network; it's the host. Like the card reader at Midstate, that's not up to NLX to fix. That's up to the host to fix. And if they don't do it, they can advertise they have one, but it doesn't work.
Well, I ran into an interesting thing at a hotel outside of Grand Canyon a couple of days ago. We spent 2 nights there, and they had some old Clipper Creeks, and they give you a key when you say you want to charge, and if you don't return the key, it's a $25 charge. So I did return the key, but that turns the charger on, then you can pull the key out. Charge during, but they had a sign that says, please 3 to 8 p.m. Well, my old guy and I got to bed at 9:30, so it didn't get very much of a charge because I moved it. And it also said, please only plug in for 4 hours. So between those 2 things, it was really difficult to get much of a charge. You know, you'd want to plug in when you go to bed and leave it till the morning and then move it. And so it's folks are making it difficult. They're trying to be nice, but they make it difficult for.
I see a disincentive to putting in the AC level 2s, because all of us have been talking to people, what's going to increase your business? Put this at your restaurant, whatever. Well, how much do you think if Davis puts in a DC charger, how much use do you think the AC overnights will get at Blackwater Falls? They'll just drop to zero. So people now don't have one are contemplating. They said, well, I'm going to wait a year or two and see what happens, because I don't want to spend that $1,500 or $3,000 to put it in and then find that nobody uses it because there's a DC charger 200 yards down the road. And I understand.
I think people will still use them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, particularly if it's rolled into the cost of lodging or whatever, and it's not, there's no charge for the destination charger, they'll use them.
Yeah, but
if they don't have the things like Marty described of you got to move it after 4 hours. Go ahead, Rick.
It depends on how you're traveling. I'm an old man and my wife doesn't really want me to do that 8 hours of driving in one day. So it works out fine for us to go to Blackwater, stay overnight, have a nice meal in the restaurant. But you spend $150 for the room and they give you $5 of electricity. So if I spent 10 at a DC charger, but only spent 15 minutes or 10 minutes getting it, then I'm not sure that that's, for most people, that's a reason to stop at a lodge for AC charger.
But I'd be visiting the state park for the weekend or whatever, and likely to stay in the lodge.
Yeah, I agree. We're going back in June, so we'll test it out. We'll be there more than one night in June.
I think that the director of West Virginia State Parks, his name is Paul Redford, has been very pleased with the plugs he has and the performance of them and the amount of business that's brought in. So, they've been in there, 7 years now?
Yep.
And these, they're pretty pleased with, because I still had the Chevy Volt when they first put them in, and they've been satisfied. He calls that he gets more heads and beds, and he's been pretty pleased with the value of them to the state parks.
Amanda, is it Tigert River State Park or Tigert Valley or Tigert River? What is the name of that park?
On your shirt.
I know.
This is the school, property of Tigers Valley Middle High School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I asked you, Joan and I stayed there on the way back from a wedding reception up in Pennsylvania, and the man was very nice. There was somebody fully charged, but blocking the only plug at the lodge. And it says you must be a guest of the lodge, but they were a guest at the tent site, and they said, we might as well park there. I put a little note at the charging, and then he and I jury rigged up an extension cord for me to at least get 120 overnight so that I could then get to if she didn't leave. But in fact, an hour later, she called and said, Mr. Walker, it's empty and you can go plug. But anyway, that owner of the manager of the park said he has bought 2 more AC level 2s. The other one's going to go at the other end of the lodge, and the third one will go in the tent camping area. So he's gung-ho for having the EV truck to bring beds on the cots or beds in the bags or whatever.
Heads and beds.
Heads in the beds.
Yeah.
Robert, I wanted to mention, I appreciate you sending out all that information on the grant money that's available. And then I started talking to people in town, and I was reminded that it's an election year. So I need to cool my heels for a couple months. But I know there's time, these are time sensitive too. So
well, some of this money, I mean, like the NEVI money goes out for a few years. The CFI grants go out for a few years. So, I mean, there will be future opportunities, but, we should try to take advantage of every opportunity every year.
I don't see what an election year should have to do with it.
Yeah, I agree, but politics.
They want to win the election. They don't want to make a stand on the elected vehicle.
That's right. You can't.
On the wrong side of the electorate.
That's right.
I was speaking of. Go ahead, Robert.
I
I'll
was
go
just gonna,
after you.
I was just gonna go add a little comment to the hotel charging and AC level 2 chargers. I mean, and I love having those at hotels, and I think they're great. Generally, the ones I've used have been free and just included, as an amenity at the hotel, and that is certainly a valid model at a hotel. However, I don't like the first come first serve, and it's blocked forever kind of thing, and you don't know. If you've booked a room at a hotel, you don't really know that you're going to be able to use the charger they have for those reasons. I mean, it could be iced, it could be taken up by someone who's charging, and a lot of folks don't have the etiquette to move their vehicle after it's charged. And you get there and some guy got there and he thinks he's just going to plug it in and leave it sit there all night. And that happens. And so, I mean, I've talked to some folks and try to encourage IHG, my hotel chain, and other hotel chains. It's like, consider trying to do lower powered level 2s. Think like 16 amp, 240 volt, like very low power level 2s. And do multiples of them. You can do 3 16 amp level 2s for every 48, amp level 2 you would have put in otherwise. And run it on the same circuit. But do something where we can reserve the spot. So if I'm coming to the room and I want to charge and I'm going to be there all night, make it like it is at home. I can get a spot. I pay for it. I will pay extra for this. This isn't a free amenity. Let me pay for it. But guarantee me a spot that my vehicle can charge overnight. Even if it's only 16 amp, overnight at 16 amp will be fine.
Well, you won't fill your car. If you're down to 20%, you're not going to get to 80% by the next day at 16 amps. 10 miles. Usually there are
16 amps at 240 volts. At 240 is like 3 kilowatts.
16 miles for every hour you're plugged in. So if you're plugged in for 8 hours, you're going to get
but I don't need a full charge. Just get me back to 60, 70, 80%. I'm not trying to get to 100%. My car's probably not going to be at 0 when I pull in. I mean, if I need 60% to get me to 80, from 20 to 80, what's 60% of a 75 kilowatt hour battery, and how long will that take if it's plugged in for 12 hours?
Paying for a reservation at a charger, I bet you that becomes a big deal in the future.
I think hotels, especially as they're going to offer more and more of these things, it's like, find a way to make this sort of a revenue model. I mean, don't be egregious about it, but I don't think folks who drive an EV, if we can be guaranteed a spot and know we can charge, I will pay for the convenience of that. So find a way, however you can make that work. Find a way to make that work, but guarantee me a slot that I can park my car in that is mine and that charger, and I don't need to worry about moving my car when it's done. I can leave that car parked there all night.
The model that the hotel in Ripley uses is they charge everybody, even the customers, 25 cents a kilowatt hour plug in, because we've gone over there and took our son to dinner, and he was short getting home with his Chevy Bolt, so he went over there and we all had dinner together for an hour and came back, and he had enough juice to get home then. And so I don't think charging is that big a deal. I mean, having a fee for plugging in.
It's not just the fee for plugging in, though. It's not paying for the power. It's guaranteeing me a plug. When I roll in at 5 p.m. or whenever, there will be a plug for me. It's like, I have reserved it, and it is mine.
I think that'll be a good revenue source for hotels in the future.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
One of the things at Blackwater Falls, there's 3 Tesla plugs and 1 J. And with my adapter, I always plug into the Tesla plug. So if somebody else comes later in the night and has a Bolt and doesn't have an adapter, they have a plug. Otherwise, they won't get one. But we also designed, if you remember, a few years ago, a log for the state parks to have when somebody comes in with an EV. They can't give my name or number out to somebody, but I can give them permission to go ahead and wake me up. I was done at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would have been happy to get out and move if somebody else needed to do from 4 to 8 just to get that extra 100 miles. So we're trying to encourage them to have a little 3-ring binder at the desk. And when people bring a car and say it's an electric vehicle, would you mind that? When will you be done? And can we call you if somebody else needs that charger? Then you could, like Marty said, you'd have more utilization without necessarily having to have a reservation.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have something?
Yeah, a couple things I'd written down in advance was I was helping Mike Whitten get his ChargePoint app working, and he had some password problems and couldn't get to his email where they confirm. But anyway, while we were there, a fellow who now lives in South Carolina, works in Detroit, and he had an Audi. Oh, I forget what the SUV number was now. Yeah, or one of the newer ones. I forget. But anyway, he showed up and he asked if we were charging. So Mike moved his vehicle because we were trying to get it to work. And so I helped him with that. But we got talking with him while he was charging, and he had charged in Gallipolis at a municipal building or something. And he said, ChargePoint's good. They keep their equipment running well, but you got to be careful. The owner of the facility where they are gets to decide how much you're going to pay. And Joe Holland Hyundai is good because I gather it's just the cost of electricity. But some places like that municipal building up at Gallipolis charged for a session, parking, as well as the cost of electricity. So he paid $42 for about 60 or 70% charge or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So watch when you're going some of these non-Tesla places, what, and particularly ChargePoint, what you might pay. Know in advance was the message I was going to pass along to you. And then Eric had rented back earlier in March a Jeep Wrangler plug-in hybrid, and his comments, I'll just read it, was it was a Jeep Wrangler Sahara 4xe. If any of your EAA friends are considering, I'd avoid it, in my opinion. Overhaul, pretty terrible mileage. It would develop a really bad shake while driving at about 77 on the highway, probably badly designed suspension. Climate control alternated between freezing or super hot. Fuel economy was utterly terrible. Sound system was super bass heavy. Max regen mode was jerky when starting and stopping. On the plus side, it does have real 4L. I guess that's four-wheel.
Four low.
Drive. And he made the comment, Cybertruck is still waiting for a software update to do that, which is useful when you're backing out of a ditch. And that was his comments for your benefit. And I'll be quiet. I think I've covered all my topics I was going to say.
I'll add one diesel story real quick.
Okay.
On my way down Charleston, I was coming up on Flatwoods, and there was a guy getting on the interstate at Flatwoods, but he's driving a diesel pickup truck. And, I'm a little ways back, but I could see the cloud of black smoke coming off this diesel truck. And I don't think he was like rolling coal, he was just, it was probably just in poor tune, or he's just one of these guys that likes to mess with the emissions on the trucks. And he was getting on the interstate, and it was just belching black smoke. So I put the Model Y into biodefense mode. And it worked great. I never smelled it.
Yeah, whenever I'm near something belching a lot of smoke, I'll just turn the ventilation off. I probably, if I can quickly get to it, that'd be a good one to put it in as well.
Yeah.
Biodefense mode sounds great.
Bioweapon defense mode, yeah, it works. And it positively pressurizes the inside of the car, so that even like any gaps and where air could get in, it's the inside of the car is now pressurized, and so now nothing can get in unless it goes through that HEPA filter in the front. So it's kind of a neat feature. Go ahead, Larry.
A couple of things. I had occasion to be up at Thomas Hospital today and thought I'd pick up just a little bit of charge. There's 2 stalls there, and there was a Volvo plugged into one of them, and the other one didn't seem to be powered. So I texted Gerald Berge to tell him that, and he acknowledged. I told him the breaker might be tripped or something. So if you're in or around South Charleston and you find something not working, you can let me know, and I can pass it on to Gerald Berge. The other thing for the Tesla owners, I guess you all heard about the full self-driving 12.3 rolling out.
And everybody's supposed to get like a 1 month free demo or something.
Yeah, that's right. It is really, it's an amazing upgrade. Tesla just dumped all the previous work, and they took videos from select drivers and fed it into artificial intelligence. And I don't have any idea how that worked or anything, but instead of having pixels and telling it that when pixels look like this, it's a traffic light, and then putting in code to do what react to that. This doesn't do any of that. It just
Neural network training.
Yeah, just in artificial intelligence, and it drives amazingly good. It still has some tweaking to be done, and they've got it operating ultra conservative. I was out in the rain today, and it wouldn't drive on the interstate over 60 miles an hour. But for where it turns off, and before it overreacted to pedestrians, and when people pull off in front of you, it'd slow down, stay slowed down for a period of time after the vehicle pull off. And it's just, when it sees an opening to get out on the road, it doesn't hesitate and makes smooth turns. And I think people are going to be really impressed with it.
We're looking forward to try it out.
Yeah, I'd like to try it. I'm going to take it to some 5-way stops up on the way to JA middle school here, where things are coming from different angles. And I want to see, Eric and I are both think that'd be a real challenge because if you're at the stop sign, all the others have various levels of control, which some of them have no traffic control as far as signs and so forth. So see how it handles that.
Traffic circles and all.
Traffic circles. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, traffic circles would be another good one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
I was a comment and maybe a question about what Scott said. I've never been at a station that I didn't think the host set the charge, not the network at all. And Joe Holland is very expensive. He doesn't charge just for electricity. He's 67 cents a kilowatt hour. And 2 of the I charged this week were 40 cents and 35 cents a kilowatt hour for DC charging. So 67 is really gouging people. But he was the only one in town when he started. Now the competition, if I can bypass Joe Holland, I definitely will, because I'm not going to pay 67 if I could pay 35.
Right.
So I'm guessing that he'll see his revenue going down and he'll have to compensate a little bit. But is anybody else maybe you don't go to non-Tesla chargers, but I've never been to one where the host didn't set the price. And even whether you have a session fee or connection fee. So one of the 2 Red E's that I went to had a $3.50 connection fee. So, but that's set by the Ford dealer, not by Red E and not by anybody else. Another thing I noted is I got the bill on my bank statement, and it's not Red E. They've contracted that out to another international company that does collections for devices and automation, even vending machines if they're not attended. But electric vehicle chargers are a big part of what they do. And they tell you when you get that, you look it up and it says, well, we cover, and they never said red E, but it was the exact charger, the exact time, and the exact amount. But it was not from red E that I get the bill sent to my bank or my credit card.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think the host, if there's a host, that if it's not owned by the charging network itself, the location, then yes, I believe the host would always, be driving that rate. There's going to be some minimum charge that the network will require, but if the host wants more than that, then yeah, it's going to get jacked up with other fees. And yeah, Joe Holland was originally 89 cents a kilowatt hour when they put that charge point in. And then now they've dropped it. According to PlugShare, it's 69 cents now. But yeah, maybe as more competition goes in, or if Nevi chargers go in, yeah, Joe Holland may need to rethink that fee. It was different when they were the only game in town, but that could change. Or well, it is changing.
Well, we stopped by there the day they opened. Joe Holland opened, and he said that he spent over $100,000 doing the electrical upgrade to put in those 2 stations he's got, which is an incredible amount of money. He had to run cabling from down the street and all that stuff to get the 460 in, because he didn't have 460 on site. And anyway, I do have some sympathy for people who put these in, because it's really expensive.
Yeah, and I agree. It is terribly expensive, but it just seems like, if you think you're going to recoup your money in 2 years, then
yeah,
it's not going to happen.
You're not. No.
You're going to have to be in this for a longer haul.
One last story: we plugged in at the Petrified Forest National Park, which is in the middle of absolute nowhere, and along I-40, which is you think I-77 is in bad shape. Drive I-40 sometime through Arizona. Literally, there are foot-deep potholes. There are trucks, semis dodging back and forth from one lane to the other to miss the potholes. Anyway, plug in there, and they had a charge point, and we only plugged in for half an hour and got 2 kW, but it's a very slow charger. But they charged $2 for that. It was 2 kW. So I think it was just a session fee, because it was rounded off to $2. And when we came back to unplug and go on, there was a Chevy Bolt there. Now this is with California plates. So that guy had driven from California all through the wasteland of lack of charging places, and was plugged in at a very slow AC charger in the national park. So I don't know how in the world he got there.
Yeah.
I've used a paid charging network that wasn't Tesla one time in 10 years. And that was at Rehoboth Beach. There was a charge point at the boardwalk. And I plugged into it, and they charged by the hour, minute, whatever. It was one of the time-based ones. And, when I first plugged in, it was only delivering it was like 5 or 6 kilowatts of power. It wasn't very good. But I thought, hey, when you worked it out, it worked out to be about, 16, 17 cents a kilowatt hour based on the time, based on their time rate. And I thought, well, okay, that's not too bad if I'm going to be here for a little while. But then apparently another EV pulled up about 10 minutes after I left and plugged into the other one. And apparently they split power. So now the power level dropped in half. So now I'm not paying, 16, 17 cents a kilowatt hour. It's almost like 35, 40 cents a kilowatt hour. And I'm getting 2 kilowatts of power. It's like, this is like level 1 charge. So by the time I got back, I think I got a whopping 1.7 kilowatt hours after a couple hours or so. So then I went to the supercharger that was a couple blocks away. It's like, Yeah, I'm not going to bother signing up for anything else.
Well, there's so many superchargers nowadays,
Yeah.
and they're going in so rapidly. There's 2,200 open in the United States right now, and over 6,000 in the world.
I
And
think I saw U.S. We were getting ready at 25,000 supercharger plugs in the U.S.
yeah,
And there's that new network that the 6 automakers came together. They're going to start sometime in 2024, and their goal is to install 30,000 plugs in North America. It's like, well, you're 25,000 behind the ball with Tesla right now. So, I wish them all the luck in the world, but it's big numbers, but you got to deliver, and it's got to work.
Yeah.
And the more the merrier, but it better work.
well, this is an interesting discussion on charging, and let's hope we make it home, huh?
Yeah.
Well, safe journey, and
Yep.
may you not find any full superchargers, Marty, or at least you only have to wait 5 minutes for a plug to open up.
Yep, have not seen a full one yet.
I know.
all the
Well-
way from West Virginia to here.
In our 9,000-mile trip back in 21, we only had to wait out west 2 times for 5 minutes for an open charge, plug to open up. And I tell people that story because how many times have people with gas cars waited 10, 15 minutes for a crowded, particularly if it's got a low cost of fuel.
I say, yeah, go to Sam's after work or Costco after work and try to gas up your car. See
Yep.
how long you wait.
Yep.
Well, it's getting about supper time
Yep.
here, so
8 p.m.
Item-
folks.
Marcia, take care, everybody.
All right,
Great
appreciate
call.
it. Thanks, everyone.
See you in a
Bye.
month.
See ya.